Hey everyone, welcome to the main event. Today is, what is today? Monday, November 6, 2023. And before we get going here, I need for someone in the chat room, and thank you everyone for joining me, to confirm my sound is going out properly. Everything looks fine on my board, but I did have a massive catastrophic data failure on my laptop about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't done a show since. So I don't even know if the sound's going to be going out properly. So please give me a shout out in the chat room ASAP. Let me know if you can hear this. The longer you go without responding, the more worried I get, and sounds good. Okay, awesome. Ken Kramer, thanks so much. Welcome to the show. It is good to be back. I got to say, it is good to be back. I've not been available to broadcast for, I think last show was September 25th. So it's been roughly 6 weeks, give or take. And I've just been really busy. And, I've talked about this before where I made the mistake of starting the broadcast in the middle of the day at 3 p.m. And that's just really tough for me because my mornings, I'm actually not dedicating to what I normally do, working with doctors and dealing with patients. I do have another business that I'm dealing with that I have to, Monday through Sunday, I have to actually be at to assist with operations. So this isn't my only gig. I do have another gig that I'm involved with. So by the time I get home, it's maybe noon, and then I get going. And so 3 o'clock, it's like I barely got started, and I have to stop what I'm doing to change gears to do this. That's why it's a hassle. That's why it's a pain in the ass to do this. But I do enjoy it. I really do enjoy talking to you guys and being more direct one-on-one in a way that I can't be normally because of the nature of what I do. But it is nice because I do miss being a consultant. I never thought I'd hear myself say that, but it's true. I do miss having that regular face-to-face interaction with you guys. So this is an opportunity for me to have a semblance of that. And it's also an opportunity to kind of vent about some of the crazy shit. And you know where this is going in this industry. But before I get to that, if you don't know who I am and what I'm doing behind this microphone, my name is Joe Tillman, and I am sometimes referred to as the original hair transplant mentor. Why? Because I was basically the first guy in the industry that actually wasn't in the industry, but the first guy online to share his hair restoration repair journey in near real time. That was 22 years ago, 22 and a half years ago, March 18th, 2001, I think was the exact date. And basically the next day onward, my life changed as far as the online world goes. And since that time, I actually wound up working for the clinic that did the repair. That was Dr. Jerry Wong and his partner, who did not have anything to do with my surgery, but I was working for him as well, Dr. Victor Hassan. And we had a fantastic run of 11 years. And then I went to work for Dr. Rahal in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, remotely. I did spend a few weeks there learning more about the clinic, but that lasted about 6 months. And the reason for that is because I realized I couldn't be a consultant anymore. There's actually a quick story I'll share about that before I move on. And it has to do with a lot of things in my life and how I try to conduct myself. It's actually important. When I went to work for Dr. Rahal, who I maintain a friendship with to this day, I think I like the guy. Like everyone's had their issues in the past, but I like the guy. I think he does really good work. Unofficial plug for Dr. Rahal there. But I got a call from someone. Actually, I got a call from someone in the company that was at the time, someone in the clinic, saying that there was someone that had been trying to call me, a patient, because he knew I worked at the clinic. And I thought, okay, that's odd. All right, whatever. What's his number? I'll call him back. And I think this is how it went down. I think I called him. Maybe he called me. But I went up talking to the guy, and he told me something that changed my outlook about what I do and how I do it completely. He said to me, or I can't say that, it emphasized my approach to this industry. I think it's a better way of saying it. He told me, I want to have surgery with Dr. Rahal. I said, okay, great. And he goes, I wasn't considering him until I found out that you were working for him, and then I decided he must be the best in the world. Forgot what the volume is in that one. Anyway, I was trying to find the record scratch. Is it? Yeah, there we go. He told me I want to have surgery with him because he must be in the best in the world since you're now working for him. I was like, huh? Whoa. I never say anyone's the best. Maybe early on in my career I did, but I'd since like I never said he was. I don't say anyone is. That was my mantra from way before I started working for him. And that kind of changed my perception of what I was doing in the industry. I thought, if this guy I've never met before, I've never talked to him before, we've never had any sort of exchanges before, is making a surgical decision based on simply where I'm working, having never talked to the guy, having never even done any sort of real online promotion at that point. I was kind of a behind the scenes kind of guy when I was working for Dr. Rahal. I wasn't front and center. I had a different job that I'd taken on that didn't involve being so much on the front lines of forums or social media at the time. It concerned me. It kind of frightened me. It's like, I've got that much influence. I didn't like that. And, you know, I'm not going to make any excuses. I was kind of burned out on being a consultant anyway. It's like, how many questions about Propecia in a day can I handle without wanting to blow my brains out? It was bad. But I realized there's a better way for me to educate you guys. And here we are. 8 years later, almost 9 years later, actually, yeah, wow, God, it's been that long. I'm doing things differently. I'm doing things differently than anyone on the planet. Utilizing my background as a patient, then a repair patient, then having worked in the industry for multiple doctors, having seen all of the, well, not all, but a lot of the disasters in this industry that you guys don't see. And I have no problem saying that some of the people I work with now, I've seen bad work from them as repair patients coming into where I was working at some point or another. I have no problem saying that because that's the way that, like, every doctor out there has a bad result. And some people say everyone has one bad result. No, no. Every one of these doctors out there, doctors I work with, doctors are on different websites, forums, wherever, they all have more than one outcome on a patient where that patient thinks the doctor has done them wrong and is pissed. I don't care what anyone says. And so my job over the past, 9 years, 8 years as an independent, and then before when I was working at the two previous clinics, was education. And I can say that with authority or with truth or whatever you want to say, because I've always, just from a purely sales approach, I've always understood two things: that if I didn't believe in the product myself, I have no business selling it, pushing it, whatever. But also, if the product is good enough, then education itself should be all you need to do. Educate in other industries, educate the client. In this industry, educate the patient on the differences between X, Y, and Z. And if they're a thinking person, they'll most likely recognize the truth based on education, and encourage them to seek information elsewhere to try to contradict what I'm telling them. I've always been like that. Way before I even got into the hair industry itself. I was in enterprise level IT sales for several years before I even got into this side of things. So that's just this is the way I roll. Demonstrated throughout my life. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, hair transplant mentor. So I didn't plan on doing a show today. I got a lot of stuff going on. I've actually got 2 doctors that I'm about to, I think I mentioned one of them at least, but I've got 2 doctors I've accepted. I'm just waiting on one thing from one doctor. He needs to get that to you. Know who you are. If you're watching, you're probably watching. You need to get your stuff to me so I can get this video done. The other one has gotten all of his stuff to me, and the video's in production now. And both of their profiles, I'm actually going to do something I've not done before, and I'm actually putting up their profiles before their videos are complete. So look for that in the next couple of days on my website, hairtransplantmentor.com. You'll see 2 new doctors, which I'm pretty happy about. And there's actually a couple more behind them. So things are looking up, more options for you guys to consider. Today's show has to do with something that I have been talking about for a very long time. And it reinforces this point. The hair transplant industry is an ugly place. There are some great things about it. Like if it was completely bad across the board, I wouldn't be involved, just because, like, who wants to surround themselves with negativity all the time? I certainly don't. I try to, contrary to popular belief, I do try to lead a peaceful life as much as possible. I don't like controversy, but I'm not afraid of it either. So, as my history will attest. But recently, you may have heard, maybe not, I don't know. There was an issue with Dr. John Cole, who was behaving, I'm not going to go into the details of, leading up to this, because frankly, it's just a lot of stuff that I don't really have everything to rehash, all the info. But there is a video I put out several weeks ago where I was actually sharing the details of why Dr. John Cole is no longer a Hair Transplant Mentor accepted member, and where I shared my concerns about his state of mind. And I thought that was it. I take that back. I knew it wasn't the end of it, because I won't go into why. I just knew it wouldn't be the end of it. It was the end of it for me, as far as I was concerned. Obviously, there were questions after the fact. Obviously, I got so many DMs, so many text messages from people saying, OMG, holy shit, wow, so sorry you got to deal with this. And that was great. I appreciate all the support on that. But for all intents and purposes, it was done. Until this past Friday. And, and the show was late today because on Friday's show, Dr. Cole was acting in a very unprofessional manner. He called the show with Spencer Coburn and myself. And I want to make sure I'm still broadcasting on the audio front here. Yeah, it looks like it. Sorry, hold on, guys. Just got to double check everything. I'm running this show myself, so just got to make everything, make sure everything's good. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So, yeah, he called the show and he was acting in a manner unbecoming of a doctor, which is generally speaking, why I revoked his membership as a hair transplant mentor accepted member. And he has basically been doubling down behind the scenes. And I won't go into all the details about what I'm seeing that he's saying. That's not important, and it's not really something I want to take the time to document because it's just a pain in my ass. But there is some documentation I have here because among many other things that he said on the show Friday, such as,
"You're a bad guy, a bad man. You are a bad man, period."
And
liar, here we go, liar, pants on fire.
Let's see, what else did he say? He said something else that he said that was, I didn't load that one up. Anyway, he also, as you just heard, called me a liar because I was challenging him on some of the things that he said with facts. And it doesn't really matter in the end, but I think it's important for anyone that was watching Friday's show to recognize it, to see just how wrong he was. And I can't say that he's purposely. I don't want to say that he's lying because I don't know what's going on in his head. He may actually believe these things that he's saying, which is part of the reason why I'm concerned about him. Just from a humanity perspective. And his big thing is that he quit, that he canceled his membership with me, not in so many words, but he said, I believe what he said was, "I dumped you." Let's see here. I actually have a clip here I'm going to share. Hold on here. I didn't get an answer to the question. Why did I not hear any of this before I said I don't want to work with you, and then suddenly I'm hearing about this nonstop? Like if you can produce some sort of email or something where you talk to me about the only one I remember is about a week before I cut you loose. You were asking me to take on Dr. Zarev.
You didn't cut me loose. I cut you loose.
That's the only.
Bastard. I cut you loose.
Dr. Cole, it's in writing. It's in writing.
In the world on myself and Tesla Zarev, and we both cut you guys loose. We cut you both loose.
I'm sorry, Dr. Cole. I never worked with Dr. Zarev. Yeah, that's true. I've never worked with Dr. Zarev, and if he were to apply, which he has not, I have no problem saying he's never applied. I wouldn't take him on simply because I know I'm 99% sure that he does not use microscopes for his hairlines, which I have a problem with. I like Dr. Zarev. Fantastic surgeon. Would never say anything to the contrary. But there are two things that I'm not crazy about with how he runs his clinic. One, he doesn't use microscopes as far as I know. I could be wrong, but I don't think he does. And I'm not talking about for inspection. I'm talking about for dissection, creating singles properly. He doesn't use magnification of any sort, at least through parts of his surgery that I feel that magnification is necessary. I'm talking about loupes just to be able to see placement, just to be able to see grafts properly. But he also uses very strong flash photography, which does not give an accurate representation of what the patient looks like if you were to see him face to face in a normal setting, like a coffee shop or whatever. So those are reasons. Aside from that, obviously he's a very, very good at what he does. But I've never worked with him, so there's no way that he could have cut me loose. I didn't understand that. But that's not really the point. The point is Dr. Cole was saying how he cut me loose. So I actually had to grab this. Gosh, it's really hard to see beforehand. Let me see if I didn't name these properly. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a copy of an email that I had sent to him. Now, we talked on the phone, and just for some context behind what led up to this was we were talking about a patient. I think this was the time frame. We're talking about a patient that we were both dealing with, and during one of these conversations, he had actually asked me what's involved. It wasn't like an application that he filled out that I normally have doctors fill out. It was an informal request. I have no problem admitting that, but he did say, actually, this stems from a conversation we had 2 years prior when we first met up in Istanbul, and we were on the bow of a ship, or the stern of a ship during this cruise we were taking through the Bosphorus Sea, and he asked me then, what does it take? But he didn't actually ask. It was 2 years later that he asked. And so I sent him this email. I'll go ahead and share this. And I'm going to try to get the original copy so I can read it. Let's see here. Nope, that's not it. Okay, I'll try to read this. Hi, Dr. Cole. I wanted to follow up with you since I was somewhat distracted by having house guests when we last spoke. You mentioned a few times, once or twice in our call, and once in one of your last messages to me about the disagreements we've had and differing points of view on various issues. And we talked about this quite a bit. I'm aware of our disagreements over the past 15 years, but I'm convinced that your points of view are fueled by a desire to help your fellow man, which I appreciate and respect. And I do believe that, or I did believe that at the time. In reality, our differences have never been an issue for me because I've always been one to accept differing viewpoints, and I understand that there is no single best answer or solution for the masses, and that different people will have different requirements that dictate what really is best for them. In other words, I hold no grudges with you, as I've never had a reason to. In fact, I enjoy our conversations, and I look forward to more over a nice scotch. While thinking things over, I remembered a conversation you and I had in Chicago, where you would ask me point blank, maybe that was it, yeah, Chicago, where you would ask me point blank what I thought you should do about the ARFI situation, and I gave you my opinion. In fact, I urged you to take my advice, of which you politely declined, and you went down your own path. I respected that, but I still hear the fallout from your decision to this day behind the scenes when the occasional patient mentions your name as is oftentimes followed by quote-unquote ARFI. I've also remembered moments when you have challenged doctors not only to their face, but in front of a crowd of your colleagues during presentations. And I also remember seeing your battles, with various quote-unquote bulbs in the ISHRS email group. And for context on that, the bulbs. Let's see, was my sound going? Let's see, where's my sound? Is my sound on? Yeah, the bulbs. Let's see. Yeah, there were doctors in the ISHRS, and they call themselves bulbs. So I'm just looking in the chat room here. Like Pedrosa, Joe is listening when Dr. Cole called, and his behavior is totally acceptable and professional. Oh yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. All right, so just adding a little context there. Where are we? So yeah, part of what I do with doctors in my group is advise them on a long list of issues they may deal with as they manifest. In fact, the visit and documentary filming I do is a very minor part of the whole package. Some of these things may include stress testing their customer service staff, advising them on opportunities that they may be presented with, or assisting with patient issues when they come up. I help them fine-tune some of their operations and help them figure out different ways to get their message out, and many other things too. No two clinics get the exact same service from me beyond my visit and filming because they all have different needs. However, the one thing that they all share in common is the ability to listen and the humility to accept constructive criticism and to act on said criticism to make changes. I cannot say that you share this trait because of how I've observed you with my own eyes and some of the decisions you've made. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just how you are. But I don't really see how we could work together with any expectation of accomplishing anything. There is money to be made, as you said, because that's something that I don't know why he kept mentioning that, but that was something he meant, that he said to me. I'm sure, but just how you are. But I have to know the doctors I work with can work with each other as well, and I can't be certain that this ideal will be upheld with your added membership at this time. So let's not do this for now and just be supportive of each other, quote unquote, out there. I don't have a quote unquote us against them mentality with all of this, and I'm happy to I can't see that. Sorry, guys. Work with you. If you have ideas you'd like to bounce off of an unbiased third party, I hope you understand my position on this, and I hope you let me buy you another scotch next time we meet, because we've been drinking a couple times together. So that was my email to him saying the first time he wanted to work with me that that wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to happen. So there's that. I just want to make sure that was out there. But what's interesting was his response, which is, "Dear Joe, I appreciate your detailed response and perspective. However, I think you misinterpreted the objective. My objective was to improve patient outcomes and to advance the technology related to hair transplant surgery. I wanted to enroll you in this initiative while paying you for the opportunity." Let me repeat that. He said, "I wanted to enroll you in this initiative while paying you for the opportunity." I don't know about you guys, but I have never had anyone offer to pay me to be enrolled in their program. I remember reading that and thinking, what am I missing? I wasn't sure. I continue. I saw in you an opportunity to advance our field. I like the influence you have over people and the limited number of physicians you recommend. Like all that recommended physicians for a fee, you live in an antiquated state. This is where the insults come. Like all that recommend physicians for a fee, you live in an antiquated state, probably about 10 years behind the cutting edge. I hoped to elevate you and make patients' lives better. From a marketing perspective, I do not need you nor anyone else. My schedule has been full for many years. In fact, I prefer to take a rest, but I can't. I have to keep pressing forward to advance the skills of the next generation of surgeons. Frankly, I think your current recommended list ranges from a great strip surgeon to a poor surgeon in general. However, I am an exceptional surgeon across the board. You do not have one of those. I thank you again for your response and consideration. All the best. I do hope I will not run into more comments about how a patient will fare better with one of your recommended physicians over me. And to be perfectly upfront, the context of that was there was a patient that had already been, had been dealing with a doctor I felt was ideal for him. And he had reached out to Dr. Cole to ask some questions. And my suggestion was that he stay the course. That's all there was to it. Now, that continues where instead of engaging him and fighting him, because I know how this works. I decided to just placate him and say, "You're right. Good for you. Bye-bye." So I said, "Hi, John. Thanks for your insight and clarification. All the best." That was my way of dismissing everything he said because I just didn't want to go into a battle. But if you look down here at the bottom, it may be hard for you to see. I'm looking on the screen right now, but his response was, "Joe, you're a gentleman. I was prepared to help make you a multi-millionaire based on your finite focus on quality. I do respect this in you. Take care, my friend." He was prepared to make me a multi-millionaire. That was really a surprising comment. I've never talked about money, about getting rich, with anyone. And I remember thinking, and I never forgot this email. That's why it was easy for me to find. Obviously I got to make a living, but it's never been about grabbing everything. I've never had this ambition of becoming a multimillionaire, which I find it to be unusual, but at the same time, all of this reinforces everything I've been telling you guys. This is a nasty industry. It's disgusting. I don't begrudge anyone for wanting to make a living. I don't begrudge anyone for wanting to make a good living in any legitimate field. But that was his way of making me regret what I had said. Like, oh, damn it. If only I'd said yes, I could be a multimillionaire. But it didn't work because that's not how I think. That's not how I roll. But it does reflect how he thinks. Now, that was the first time. That was when I actually rejected his initial, I won't say application because it wasn't an application, but his original request to join. So, what I didn't load up, just simply because I didn't have time, but I will still share, is how this all went down beforehand. But before that, I do want to share a couple more comments that he said on the show.
Now, in terms of you and I really felt like this guy had turned the corner. He was coming around. He was really focused on good work. And I was very happy that you came to me and said, I would like to promote your work. I was very happy about that because I felt like you had a good eye for quality.
I have to interrupt you there, Dr. Cole, because I have never approached anyone except for two doctors in my career about
liar.
I have the emails.
Liar.
It's all documented. It's all documented.
You asked me.
It's all documented, and I have no problem sharing those emails on my next show. Where I sent you a letter saying that you do not play well with others, so I didn't think it was a good idea. And that's when you went on hairsite.com and you decided to drag my name through the mud. And then about 2 years later, when we were both working with the same patient, I told you, I said we could revisit your application. And you said that would be great. That's exactly.
You're a liar.
I'm sorry, say that again. Sorry, say that again. So when I threw that at him, he decided to start throwing F-bombs live on the air, which really isn't becoming of a doctor. There's a little bit of, I don't know, have some humility, have some professionalism about you. But it just reinforces I made the right decision the first time, and I made the right decision in September, which is what started all this. I wish I had stuck to my guns in 2017. I really do. Because here we are today. But I played that clip because that's in what I just showed you in the email. That's in response. And I was mentioning hairsite.com. When I sent that email that I just had up on the screen, that was in March of 2017. 2 months later, he was online dragging me, not by name, but the mentor, through the mud, talking, the same rhetoric that he's throwing out there now, some of which was on the show. So, let's see, what else was there? So, and here's another clip that I wasn't sure what he was talking about at first, but I think I figured it out, so I'm going to play that one next.
Look, you and I fought for a long time because you kept promoting strip surgery, and I kept saying it was a horrible system. And then you started to promote another FUE surgeon in Canada, and he's a good guy, but my God, he was a disaster. And his results were disastrous. So, yeah, we had a big problem over that. Don't ever think we stopped, communicating and having an issue over what you do, which is promote bad surgeons. You promote bad surgeons as a way of life, as a way of making income.
And when I watched this clip again, I realized what he was talking about. And he's not talking about my organization now, Hair Transplant Mentor. He's not talking about that at all. He's talking about when I was working for Hassan and Wong and then subsequently Dr. Rahal. That's who he's talking about being bad doctors. It finally, I kept thinking, I was like, I even said after that particular clip, I even said to him online, I said, you've never mentioned this to me before. Like, why are you suddenly saying that where's this coming from? Well, I know where it's coming from, but why do you feel like this is something that will redeem your bad behavior? Not in so many words. And it hit me. It's like, that's what he's talking about. He's holding a grudge from when I was a consultant, and he's saying that Hassan and Wong were bad doctors and Dr. Rahal was a bad doctor with a FUE. And I told him, well, I don't remember you actually telling me any of this, and he was talking about that. So the man really does live in the past. That's for sure. For someone that's talking about, pushing the envelope and the technology of hair transplant surgery forward, he certainly does dwell in the past a little bit more than I think is healthy, because I had no idea what he was talking about until I thought about it. It's like, my God, he's talking about when we would have debates. That's all I saw them as, is debates. He actually had a problem with me. I didn't have a problem with him. I thought he was too cocky, which I think is still valid. I always thought that was valid. But I was actually surprised when I was looking at the clip. I was like, my God, I can't believe he's actually, he hasn't moved on from that. It's old news. It's so long ago. Like, I don't get it. And just because Hassan and Wong at the time was primarily, actually they were only a strip clinic, that makes them a terrible clinic? That's the logic? And Hussein Rahal, at the time when he was, when I had started to work for him, he didn't have a lot of results online. He'd actually performed a lot of surprisingly high number of FUE surgeries that I had seen behind the scenes. Like that was one of the conditions of me coming on board. I was like, well, if you want me to help you promote your FUE business, I need to see results. I got more results than I could have imagined, than I did imagine, actually. Dozens upon dozens upon dozens that he, once I signed the proper forms, I was given access to. So I'm kind of surprised for him to say that it was, such terrible surgery. I mean, a few cases here and there that didn't turn out so great, but that's with, again, every clinic, nothing unique to Dr. Rahal. So it was just really bizarre. But I want to move on to a couple of other things. He was talking about, make sure I got this clip properly potted up. It might be this one. No, I may not have it. But in the episode or in the show from Friday, he was saying that he never compared Spencer Coburn and myself to the Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels. That was one of the things that I was talking about in the previous video where I'm talking about Dr. Cole. And I thought I was able to grab that. Let me just double check. I didn't get that. Liar pants on fire. promote past surgeons. Never replied. Just making sure I got the. This might not be the clip. I'm going to play it just to see.
The first, hey, look, you and I fought for a long time.
Nope. Okay, that was the one I just played. Was it this one? Let's see.
No, shut the fuck up. I am talking.
No, it wasn't that one. Okay, I didn't load that one up. Anyway, you can look in the video, or the broadcast from Friday. If you look back at I think it's around the 57-minute point when he first calls in for the next half hour. It's near the end of that half hour. It's actually when he hangs up that we're talking about me asking him about his comparison of Spencer and me to Nazi propagandists. And for those of you who don't know your history, Joseph Goebbels, I don't remember how to pronounce his name. He was the right-hand man of Hitler, and he was the one that mainly came up with the real atrocities against the Jewish people. The propaganda, the posters, the identification methods that German citizens had to go through to identify them as Jews living their day-to-day lives before the ultimate crime took place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you context of how it all started, actually. And I'm going to remind you that he says it didn't happen. So what I present to you is Dr. Cole's son, Nick Cole, who was arrested in 2019 for aggravated assault, firing a shotgun at someone after a fight, after a party at the Cole compound. He says here, and I quote, what we have brewing is a Nazi Germany, a group, that would be me and Spencer, that claims they know the superior physicians. We don't make that claim. They do say there are other good doctors out there. That's really big of him to say. Eventually, Joseph Goebbels' opinion will be the only one that matters. Do you really want to be subjected to a pay-to-play system or earn your patients based on merit? Call me crazy, but my beliefs stem from my founding fathers like Alexander Hamilton, who also believed in merit over inheritance. It's really rich considering the fact that until I said, hey, I don't want to work with these guys anymore, they were perfectly happy to be a part of this. The irony just never ceases. So now, I think this was the next day. Nick actually came back and apologized at the urging of someone in their, I guess, in their circle. I'd like to apologize publicly for my statement of comparing Spencer Coburn to Joseph Goebbels. The statement I made belittles the destruction Goebbels caused. While I do believe that Spencer doesn't act in the best interest of prospective patients out there, it does not compare to the destruction caused by Joseph Goebbels. It was insensitive. My statement stems from the election that throws terms like Nazi around carelessly. Now that's kind of special. Making such a strong, terribly anti-Semitic comment because of an election. This is a very serious accusation that has become desensitized in the political atmosphere. I don't really disagree with that. Again, I am sorry for my insensitive statement. It would have been better to compare him to the tobacco industry or pharmaceutical companies responsible for the opioid crisis. Sorry for the anti-Semitic comment. I'll throw something else terrible out there to compare him to. But this is where Dr. Cole's not only strong statement that he didn't say such things, similar things, comes up. He warned me not to actually share it. And when I said, okay, well, how about if I just read it? Because I couldn't find it at the time. As I was reading it, he decided to hang up because he couldn't handle the truth. So here it is. It was right after, and this is what's really rich about this. His son had just apologized. Yet he decides to double down. He says, right, Spencer Coburn is profiting at the expense to people. His focus is making money regardless of how he hurts individuals by recommending bad doctors. He is not exterminating a people. His link to Goebbels is how he and Joe Tillman run a propaganda campaign to maintain their destruction of humanity and rise to power. Look how they have tried to tarnish my name to protect their empire. I'm this way. They mimic the propagandists. What does that say again? Run a propaganda campaign to we're maintaining our destruction of humanity and our rise to power. What do you say to that? Well, first off, he says he didn't say it. There it is, black and white, or white on black. That's it. I mean, there's so much more. There's just so much more. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit that one.
Liar, liar, liar. Here you go, liar, liar, pants on fire. You're a bad guy. A bad man. You are a bad man, period.
So that's it. That's the truth. That's what's going on here. Apparently there's things going on behind the scenes. Some things I can't really share with you. Like I can tell you about them, but I can't back it up. Like I got the proof, but then I can't share it with you because I'm violating patient confidentiality, which is something I'm not going to do. I'm honoring the wishes of someone that if I were to share, it would make things even worse. But I'm not going to do that. So just telling you guys about what's documented that I can share with you, just to really highlight the intensity of this issue. Sorry, I'm getting some messages here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I can't. Yeah.
We gave a lifetime achievement award.
Hold on.
To Spencer.
See, and this is what's really ironic about all this. When I dropped Dr. Cole, I think he hates when I say that, but when I dropped him, up until that point, literally, like I won't say minutes, but within the previous couple of hours, he said that he loves me, that, I was apparently immune from this criticism that he was throwing at Spencer behind the scenes. And I'll share that online if I need to. I dropped him. Oh, actually, yeah, I need to, that's the last thing, to just debunk what he was saying. I really hate this. And guys, I really hate doing this. Like, it's really not pretty to go through this. But unfortunately, I think it's an opportunity to kind of reemphasize what I've been saying for years, that Spencer Coburn's been saying for years, that you don't know these people. The persona that you're seeing in social media and what have you is not what's going on behind the scenes. Some of them are fantastic. Some of these people are really good, like good people. Some of them are not. And sorry, I just need to find. And that's the only reason I'm doing this. Like, just to drive home this point. And also, like, being called a liar so emphatically, like he was. Yeah, it's just crazy. Okay, so here we go. Found the discussion. Sorry, guys. I'm just scrolling through. Just so you know, this isn't fake. I'm scrolling through this old conversation. Like, he removed me from our WhatsApp group. Here it is. But I wasn't. It wasn't until we had some more discussions. So, yeah. So he was going on a tirade. He's doing his crazy talk. And Spencer Coburn says, John, you need help. The bottom line is I've done my best to keep anyway, that's not important. John says, you're talking to Spencer, you're a stupid man and a greedy man. I could dump you, but on occasion, you have a valued opinion. Keep dropping sprinkles of wisdom. You don't have much to drip, but drip it. Let's see, got a call. Yeah, I'm not taking calls right now, guys. I said, we're done, John. I'll show this to you in a second. Just so you know, it's not fake. Like, this is, like, you can see it scrolling. Can't fake that. At least I don't know how. I says, we're done, John. It's been fun, but I don't want nor need your money if you're going to be insulting me and those that are on the front lines fighting the real fight. It's unfortunate, but it's been coming for a while anyway. There is a better way for sure, and it includes moving forward with minds that are open to change and real education. Please have your team remove any and all references to me, my likeness, as well as all videos and material I've created for you. In the next week, I'll refund you for this month in the next few days. I didn't have to do that. I did not have to do that. That was me wiping my hands of him. So you can see, I'm going to let that focus. There you go. You guys can screenshot this if you want so you can read it again later, just so you can see it. And just so you can see, I'm not like, that's the actual conversation, right? So there we go. Try to get that closer. There we go. All right. So that's verified. And then he says, "Yep, we are done." Then he calls me a loser. I'll show this to you as well. Joe Tillman is the only voice in hair restoration I personally respect. He is a soul voice who understands surgery, but is not a surgeon. But he is collected. Now we're no longer amigos. Didn't have to be that way. And this is interesting. This shows the mental state. The concern with taking these oligarchs on is their power. I plan to take them on all at once while making their goals more impressive. They all collectively failed. Better surgeon will prevail. You three clowns are going to recognize a Trumpismism. You are weak. You harm people. You are going down. It's going public from here. Your objective is to make money, but my objective is to provide quality. Tillman showed his greedy face too. Bad man. Now, here's a fact. All of your bad surgeons are going to get the boot, as all of you are bad people. This is a path you chose. So just so you know, like, I'm not making this up. It's all here. Feel free to screenshot it if you want. There you go. All that was because I just said I don't want to work with it anymore. We're done. And for the record, all of my logos are not removed from his website and his productions. And in fact, if you look at all of the videos that they've produced on YouTube since that message, they're actively still using my logo, which tells me it's like, well, if I'm that bad, then why are you still using my logo? Why are you still advertising yourself as a hair transplant mentor clinic? A little contradictory. That's something else I'm dealing with on the back end. But so he said all this, first about Spencer and then me, and just a little reminder.
And we did.
Hold on.
We gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Spencer Coburn, the first award any society has given to a non-physician. Spencer Coburn has single-handedly helped to move the world in the right direction in terms of how we perform surgery. Now, the other important thing about Spencer is he helped to to bring follicular unit extraction to America and to the rest of the world. And he did that by noting some work that was done by Dr. Ray Woods, which was then called the Woods procedure. He brought that procedure to the rest of the world, and he encouraged us to learn it. We knew we had to figure a way to do it, and we did. But it was the efforts of Spencer Coburn that helped bring this procedure to the rest of the world. He's a very important part of the advancement of hair restoration surgery, and he's a very important player in terms of protecting patients. We gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Spencer Coburn.
So, anyway, enough of that. Like, it's just, it shows that when you wound an animal, everything changes. I'm not calling him an animal. It's a analogy, one that I'm sure that he understands since he's a hunter. So yeah, that's the concern I have for patients. And just again, to address something else he said, and I'm trying to be very transparent with this. He said something else in the broadcast on Monday, that I'm calling his patients and telling them not to have surgery with him. And that's not entirely false. I called I don't know if I called him. I returned the phone call of a patient that I've known for 9 years. That I have a personal, I've developed a friendship with over the years. And he reached out to me and said that he's having surgery with Dr. Cole, but he's having issues with his scalp. Like, I won't even go into what the issue was, but it was a medical condition. And I said, I don't think that it's a good idea for him to have surgery now. First and foremost, because I think that it's best. It was best for him to wait and let things settle down, because this patient has a connection to me, and I didn't want him to be subject to potentially any sort of uncomfortable situations when he's supposed to be having surgery. He's supposed to be focusing on having surgery. John is supposed to be focusing on performing surgery. I didn't want there to be any distractions. And this patient is one of those patients where they're the last people that deserve to have another distraction during their surgery, because he's a repair patient. Secondly, I felt that his medical condition, his scalp condition, was prohibitive to a proper surgery. I told him to speak to the other doctor that he was dealing with, not a hair transplant surgeon, but a specialist regarding his issue, to continue working to eradicate the issue, to bring the issue under control, which he did, and he postponed everything. That was the right move. But I've spoken to no other patients in that regard. So what he's saying is not entirely untrue, but it is inaccurate as far as the the context of that. So all the cards on the table, my friends. Everything that he said, I think everything he said I've addressed. So with the sole purpose of you guys seeing just what can happen. Like, this isn't the first time this has happened in this industry. There have been other doctors that have, how can I put this? I will say there was a doctor several years back that lost his mind publicly on YouTube. Not a good look. And I feel that if there is nothing wrong in someone's life, they don't have a meltdown with attitude publicly. So I don't like talking about this. I don't like being in this position. I'm sorry that he, look, if he had called on Friday and had maintained a sense of civility from the beginning, this could have gone completely differently for him. He could have come out of this looking much better than he did. Unfortunately, the very first comments, I believe, after he identified himself, was an accusation that he was being shut down. Obviously, he wasn't. I think it was stupid of him to call into our show, understanding the situation, being involved in the situation, being the situation, while he is in the middle of a bar or a coffee shop. I don't know where he was, but it was quite loud. It was quite distracting for him. I'm sorry that it would have gone better for him had he also not been in such a public place. Like if he was in a quiet room. I'm kind of making excuses for him, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I will take some calls now. Sorry, caller earlier. I hung up. I should have put you on hold. I'm sorry. I was just in the middle of a thought and I didn't need to be distracted. Then why did I turn on the phones? I could have kept them off. But the phones are open. The number is 1-833-563-4247. Feel free to give me a call. I mean, I can't believe I went for an hour talking about this bullshit. But feel free to give me a call. I've not been around to answer questions about hair loss, hair restoration for 6 weeks. And so this is the opportunity. I don't know when I'll be back on again. I made it a point to be with you today because I promised on Fridays of the Bald Truth I would. So here I am. So the previous caller, feel free to call back. Did I hang up or did I put... No, I did hang up. I didn't put you on hold. But yeah, 833-563-4247. Until the next call comes in, I can't talk about the new doctors I've accepted. Not yet. Oh, here we go. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
And it's Morty from Brooklyn.
My friend. How are you?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. I missed all the fireworks on Friday.
You
picked them
did?
up on Saturday.
You did? And what fireworks they were.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone's asking, where's Morty?
Yeah, well, here I am.
And here you
wanted
are.
to make sure that everyone knows that that I'm still alive and kicking, and things are okay. Things are a bit confusing in my life, needless to say, with respect to the situation. But I'm alive and well and healthy.
Are they really confusing, Morty?
Let's be clear. Are you being facetious, Joe?
Who, me? I thought you were.
No, look, what I'm going to say is the following, and that is, it's something that I kind of alluded to previously, which is that you need to revise your video where you talk about not having a hair transplant. Because the beautiful thing about not having a hair transplant is it's a video which is designed to tell the neophyte what it is that they're in for. Yeah. And this is something that was not mentioned in the video.
Good point. Touché. Well put.
It's a rare occurrence, but then again, so are things like necrosis. That's also a fairly rare occurrence these days. So
two of the things rare in hair transplant surgery: necrosis and absolute lunacy.
Exactly. So this is if we're gonna talk about rare occurrences, we have to talk about this because if it was once with somebody else who claimed the initials JC, and now a second time with somebody whose initials are actually JC. Mm-hmm. It's not something that we can say it's a once in a lifetime coincidence. It has happened more than once.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the first point. The second point is why it's confusing for me is because of something else, which is one of the issues I think that has to do with a lot of these topical therapies is that each doctor out there has their own particular mix of percentages of particular medications, whether it's finasteride, latanoprost, minoxidil, triamcinolone, and God knows what else ends up going into these. And every doctor has a slightly different mix. And further, every doctor tends to work with different pharmacies.
Yeah.
So the real problem in this is essentially, as a patient, if for some reason you have to change doctors, and this could be for a whole host of reasons, not just this one.
Yeah. Hello? Morty? I lost Morty. What happened? Morty, call me back. We're still live? Yeah. Oh, there he is. Okay. Not sure what happened, my friend. You there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it me or you? I don't know.
Not sure.
Anyway,
not sure.
So I'm not sure how far you got, but essentially the issue is, of course, that we were talking about the different formulations, different pharmacies, different doctors.
Right. And the problem if you need to switch. Yeah.
Yeah. And the switch could cause all sorts of problems for you. You could have an effluvia. You could, the new pharmacy could result in a setback. And as a hair loss patient, somebody who is, I've got fairly aggressive hair loss, and I've got parts of my scalp that weren't treated with transplanted hair, and I have some degree of retrograde alopecia. It's important for me because I do not want to lose more hair.
Of course.
And having to switch to, another doctor, another pharmacy, another formulation, there's a risk there. So that's something I think that, patients should know about before they get onto, a very doctor-specific regimen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. That's a great point about having to switch formulations because of, I mean, are you saying that that's happening to you, or you're concerned about that?
I am concerned about it. It is not happening as of yet.
Okay.
But
all right.
as we know, there are certain things that may be in the offing in the near to in the short to medium term, which that becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things that's kind of weighing heavy on my mind. And it's not, I'm mentioning it for those people out there who plan on it. I mean, like, for example, you, for a little while, were using the product, Dr. Wong's product, I think it was, or was it Dr. Hassan's product?
Dr. Hassan's product, yes.
Yeah. Zion. And so there, I mean, it's the same risk, essentially, right? You've got a particular product from a particular doctor with a particular formulation from a particular, all of this type of stuff. And, you decided on your own to get off of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm guessing that's part of the reason.
Well, no. The reason why I got off of it was simply because I wasn't convinced about convinced of the efficacy simply because it's such a thick formulation, and my concern with people that have more hair as opposed to less hair, like me, with all the transplanted hair I've had placed, I felt it was more difficult for a thicker formulation to actually get down to the scalp as opposed to getting intercepted by the actual hair follicles in between my fingertips and the scalp, right? That's my concern. That's my concern with any form. Like, it's like sticking toothpaste in my hair. That's how thick that is. The formulation of Zion, it's a very thick. Actually, you know what? I can't say that for sure. I don't know about Zion. I only know what I was getting from the local pharmacy that he uses or was using. I've been using this pharmacy for 20 years, so I know them very well. But I was using the off-label version before Zion was even a thing, and into it becoming a thing. So,
gotcha.
But I loved using it as a styling agent. It was amazing. The best hairstyling gel or paste or pomade, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever used in my life. It was the bomb. But so much of it styling my hair properly, how much was that was getting to my scalp, which is where I actually needed it? I didn't think it would be very much.
Yep.
As opposed to more of a thinner, liquefied compound composition that would go right through my hair onto my scalp and be rubbing around or be rolling around, dripping around until I moved it with my fingertips, right? Like old school topical minoxidil. That's why I stopped taking it, because I couldn't trust that it was going to do what it's supposed to do.
I see. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to talk about consistency of the product. I mean, the product I'm using is a Lipoderm mixture, and Lipoderm also has that kind of thick lotion kind of a consistency. I find, I find that I can feel the change in temperature when the stuff touches the scalp, and that's kind of how I know that it's on the scalp. So, I'm not too concerned with it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where, for me, like I said before, it's like, I've talked to Spencer about this. My regimen is a little bit intense. Of my own making, I just kept on piling things on that I'm not sure. And this is the other thing that you guys had warned me, both you specifically, is that if you throw the kitchen sink in it, you're going to be afraid to take which part of the kitchen sink can you take off without suffering the consequences.
Exactly.
And now this other wrench gets thrown into the works. So.
And now you don't know whether to take off the cold faucet handle, the hot faucet handle, the gooseneck, the drain. Yeah. You don't know which part to take out, my friend. You're screwed.
Exactly.
You just did it.
Yeah.
I get it though.
Exactly.
I get it. You had some good results with finasteride. And it's like, well, shit. What if I add this? Well, hell, what if I add this? And it's like, I get it. Look, I have a few months supply of, actually it's right here, of Cosma RNA. I could start using this now on camera.
You don't want to use that shit. You don't want to get on another product.
I am so tempted. I am so tempted to try this. And just like right here on the camera, people can see, you'll be able to see in a few minutes if you're watching, right here in my part line, like right here where where my crown, and it's like the part line, and the demarcation from donor hair to transplant hair, like just like this is the weak spot, and all like I want to fill that in, and I don't want to do it surgically. Will this help me? I don't know. I don't know.
You have to try, and then the worst of all worlds where it actually does, and then now you're stuck with yet another product that you have to freaking deal with.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
If it did work, I would be all over social media. Like you could stick me in a pink dress and a tutu and a pink bow on my head. I would be happy to promote the product.
Yeah, sure.
And I will keep using. I'll do that in order to make sure that they get a lot of business, so they stay open, so I can keep getting mine.
Yeah. And that's the difference between a mass market product and a compounded formulation from a single doctor, which is that's a whole other dimension, right?
It's a very good point. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
And you know what? And that's why the compounding pharmacy versus name brand, consistency. That's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. That's how you can ensure the best results for the long term. And here's the thing. I'm talking to a couple of different HIMS type of companies, Keeps type of companies. Two different companies I'm dealing with. Just talking to them, and one of the things that I've asked them both. One of them I actually dictated that if they were to be taken seriously in the industry by people such as myself, then they would ensure that their raw materials are sourced from one place that is reliable and known to have good product, and then the compounding pharmacy they use to actually put it together, that they're getting it from the one source that you designate they get it from. That there's no leeway on that. That the way that they actually compound the final product, that there's consistency with that. And then to have checks and balances in place in random testing throughout the year of the product to make sure it is what it is. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because that to me there's a number of dimensions, right? The first dimension, like you said, is consistency of product. The second dimension is the viability of the business. Mm-hmm. See, one of the nice things about buying, say, name brand finasteride is that the business that produces it is a multi-billion-dollar endeavor, and the likelihood of that business going under is very small. When you're dealing with a startup, there is the risk of failure there. Mm-hmm. So that's also something else to consider. But obviously, you want to make sure that they have some sort of market differentiator, which would be, like you said, a consistency, a standardized product quality monitoring process. It even goes so far as to say that the monitoring should be done by a third party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one I was talking about, they actually do have a third party that's doing the examination. But there's and the second company I was talking about, I mentioned without naming them. I actually brought this up to them when we were just talking in general, and they said, "Oh yeah, we actually source it from the United States, and it's like checks and balances, the whole 9 yards." I was actually surprised to hear it. It's like, okay, good people actually running this place. So I may talk about them in the future at some point. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I know actually one of them I'm probably going to mention simply because they sent me a bunch of their before and after results, and I've verified the photos. Like I know how they're taking the photos because I actually helped them design the approach, or I designed it for them actually. And like I know the camera they're using, I know the lighting they're using. They're not using flash. They're doing it right. I verified this. Astounding results, like shockingly good results. And I will be making a video about this. It's on deck. I've got 2, maybe 3 videos in front of them, depending on how the third one comes together. But yeah, in the next several weeks, maybe 2 months, this video will be produced and released, and I think it'll be an eye opener to some people. Like it's pretty shocking. It'll be pretty shocking.
That's great news. That's great news. So you're basically talking about a product which uses settled science in the hair loss, in the hair loss industry. In other words, we're talking about DHC inhibitors and these types of products, and more importantly, the packaging is good. And
yeah, I mean, and I'm pretty hesitant to talk about this kind of stuff because when you look at non-surgical in general in this industry, this is one of the things I've been thinking about again for the umpteenth time recently. Is the biologics in hair restoration or the hair loss industry. I can't say there aren't some really good results out there. There's actually this one of the 2 new doctors I'm taking on apparently is very, very good with regen medicine. He's actually he shared one of his results in this group that I'm in on WhatsApp with a few dozen doctors, and it blew me away. It actually blew everyone away. And so I asked him privately, can you send me more of these? And he goes, I will, but I'm actually in the middle of writing a paper about this, so he's going to be published with his approach. And I can't wait to share this because it's fantastic. But what brought me to this was my thought process on regenerative medicine in the hair restoration industry, and how the majority of people that are claiming to be, not just claiming to be pioneers or we'll say not pioneers, but pushing the industry forward, But also, what's interesting is others talk about how this person has such a smart mind in regenerative medicine. And I was scratching my head the other night. I was actually thinking about this the other night, and I'm like, based on what? I've not seen a lot of regen results that mean shit, actually. And
how about your own? I mean, you had therapy with Dr. Cooley, and I remember you know.
It was minor. It was minor, and he even told me up front. He said, "I don't know if this is probably not going to do anything for you because all your hair is transplanted." I was like, "Yeah, but let's try the periphery where but the little demarcation between transplant and native hair." He goes, "Okay, let's try that. You might get something." I did get something.
Okay,
but is it enough to, like, I have no problem saying it was a pittance. I noticed it. I made a video about it, but it wasn't something that people should, like, if it was just based on my result, I'd tell people to call bullshit anytime a doctor mentions it, which I kind of do now, but I do it with a caveat. You need to insist on documentation. Like, if a doctor is saying, if you have my protocol, whatever they call it, we can have X, Y, Z as a result, then okay, show me the money, which has been my mantra for, like, since I got in this industry. When doctors make claims that sound great, awesome, sign me up as soon as you show me a bunch of results that dictates that you're consistent.
So this mysterious doctor's results are above and beyond what you experienced, in other words.
The doctor, yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Yes.
Yes. That's interesting.
Talk about a Norwood 3, strong Norwood 3, now a Norwood 2.
Wow, that's big.
It's huge.
That's big.
It's huge. Huge. Not for every patient, but claims that there's, like, a large library of results that he's got. Dr. Cooley, large library of results. And what I like about Dr. Cooley's protocol is he's not talking about 3 or 4 treatments in a year. One. Yeah. One treatment.
Yeah. And that's it. So let me ask you this. So you talk about a pittance result. Did you notice it peter out after a time, or that small gain, such as it was, did it stay with you?
Oh no, it's gone. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It doesn't stick around. Not to focus on Dr. Cooley, but he's the only one I can really talk about where I've seen,
and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, where I've seen a consistency of results is he's got it documented. I think I actually made a video about this several years ago. One of the 7 or 8 I made about him, where I'm talking about his approach back then. And he even has a patient that he was able to share where the result 4 years later was much stronger than baseline before his first treatment or his only treatment. He had one treatment, and 4 years later, while it did degrade, it was still far and above better than baseline. It was really interesting, actually. Like I've not thought about it in a long time, but now that I'm talking about it, it's like I actually want to look at this again because it's really, those are the cases, those are the approaches that when I see them, I'm like, I get a warm feeling in my heart. I'm like, yes, this is real. This is real medicine. This is real, a real approach. But then you got some others out there that are, talking about their approach. You see, maybe some anecdotal stuff here and there, but nothing that's really wow, much less even a whimper. But it's interesting. I see some other people talking about the clinic, and it's like, based on what? And it made me realize, someone in the chat room mentioned this, there's a Kool-Aid effect. There's a Jim Jones effect that happens. When some people crow about their greatness, some people believe it based on the volume.
Yeah. Well, it's a sunk cost fallacy. if you spent $1,200 or $1,500 or $2,000 or $4,000 on some sort of regenerative procedure, you're gonna be so impressed with that result simply because you dropped all that money.
Yeah.
And that certainly makes sense. One other thing is to change the subject a little bit. Something that I've actually wanted to call the show about recently was Dr. Bloxham had actually did a video. I'm not sure if you'd seen it a few weeks ago around using verteporfin for strip scar revision repair.
Okay.
And it was interesting. He did a 1 month follow up, and he talked about the results that he had. And one of the things that he talked about, which was interesting, was for the strip scar revision surgery that he'd done. He did 3 of them, and he did pieces of the strip scar revision without verteporfin, and then pieces of the it's a bit of a tongue twister. The strip scar revision with verteporfin, and he talked about how the healing process was markedly different. The verteporfin treated area looked like it didn't heal as quickly, and it also looked like more hairs were growing through sooner after 1 month. Now, I don't know if that means anything
growing
at all.
Through what? The donor scar?
Yeah.
Did he perform trichophytic closure?
He didn't mention.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the bottom line is the untreated and treated areas that he talked about were on the same people's heads, in similar positions. So like he took the strip scar and the stripping, divided it into 4 sections, and then it was like one section with verteporfin, one not on the left side, and then the opposite sections on the right side. So that you had like one which was closer to the ear, one which is closer to the back.
Yeah.
So that you could see the comparisons of the type of and again, and this was only at a month, so he's going to probably do another follow up in another few weeks. I just wanted to get your take on the whole verteporfin thing, because it's been talked about now going on about 2 years. I know that there was a doctor in Jordan who had done some verteporfin experiments, putting verteporfin in extraction sites and claiming hairs growing back into extraction sites. This was a little different. This is with strip scars, so I figured it.
Well, no, I mean it's interesting. My feelings on those types of that type of documentation is sorry, 1 second. Is that it doesn't mean anything to me, and the reason why I say that is because 3 patients is meaningless.
It's nothing.
It's meaningless. It's nothing. And there have been many such studies, and I hesitate to even call them studies. I'll call them experiments, because that's what they are. They're experimenting. Where similar outcomes, whatever, like, hair regeneration, invisible scars, no scar, skin tissue generated instead of scar tissue, like all that happy horse shit. I've seen a lot of them, and they all fall apart with continued experimentation. And so I don't like discounting just out of hand, but at the same time, been there, done that many times. And I mean, look, and there's nothing wrong, obviously, with experimenting. That's how we move forward. And I'm glad to see that there is potentially, I'll say this. I'm glad that there's reason to move forward, something that's encouraging. But I learned a long time ago to really hold back on my enthusiasm, because I always get disappointed. So
that's fair. The use of this stuff is pretty limited anyway. The thing that I could see, like, even if it was like the most amazing result of what you're basically talking about, is the myth of unlimited donor, right? The idea that you could pull a hair out and then another hair will grow back in its place and you pull it out and just keep it going ad nauseum. This, and you're right. I mean, this is the sort of thing that they talked about with a lot of these biologics. Like, oh, you can put either PRP or CRP or some other biological, some other autologous concoction into the donor area and get hair regeneration. So,
I remember a doctor 15 years ago talking about fit farming. I knew it was bullshit then, like when it first came out, and I was right. The idea of taking a body hair and sticking it into a scalp hair extraction after the scalp hair has been transplanted to the top of the scalp in order to maintain the appearance of a full donor area that's never been touched. My question then was, if the donor extractions don't leave visible scarring, as was being claimed at the time, then what is the need for fit farming in the first place? Pretty logical question, I think. Pretty fair question. Yeah. And then the second question was, how many times have you done this? How many patients have you experimented on to where you feel that it's worthwhile to actually make this claim? Never got the answer.
Yep. And it's usually single digits or something like that.
And maybe that's why there's this idea that we've been fighting for 20 years. Anyway, got another call, Morty. Great hearing from you as always, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
You got it, Joe. Take care.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I had to get Morty off the phone, first of all.
I knew it was you.
I am calling you from a secret location.
An undisclosed vault location.
Yeah, so I'm not at TBT Studios, but sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I just got off the treadmill listening and watching the program on my phone, which is still like black magic to me, by the way.
Yes. It is black.
But I want to say, first of all, to answer Morty's question, no real scientist, nobody in real medicine takes an experiment on YouTube to get play and possible, to start a conversation or to kind of, highlight something or excite people into potentially coming in to have experimental surgery. And that is something that's only really found in hair transplant surgery.
Yeah.
So you always have to look at this shit with a jaundiced eye.
Yeah, as we always have. And when you're talking about that, actually, it's a great point, and it makes me ask, when this experiment, and I refuse to call it a study, which is what it's being called. I think it's a gross insult to real science to call it a study. But these experiments, the people that are pushing this, I wonder if they're also pushing this with the idea that whoever does the experiment will get more exposure.
That's exactly why they're pushing it, Joseph.
Yeah.
They want this. They want the conversation to be on Reddit and on message forums, and that's exactly what happens with these things. In the old days, it was just on the forums, and everyone got excited. People were flying to the Netherlands.
They don't want it to be on Reddit. Anyone that's taking part in this is hated on Reddit. They don't want it to be on Reddit. They just want it to be on the discussion forums.
Whatever. I'm old. Yeah. Wherever these people go.
You can't revert to that excuse every time you're wrong. You're not old.
Okay, here's my second point. Cole unfortunately pulled a full-blown Britney Spears on Friday. That's the bottom line.
Dancing with knives.
So whatever the excuse is, we're all like, it's really too bad. We hope it gets help. This is a tipping point that I think everyone really has to, examine closely.
Yeah.
And like I said on the program, we know that this shit could happen to anybody. Doctors are not immune to whatever, substance abuse or mental illness, bipolar, depression,
right.
Whatever, bad upbringings, whatever this guy's gone through. Whatever makes him tick, which I never fully understood, something happened, I would say, in the last 2 years, in my view, where as bad as it was relatively contained within the industry. Maybe, I would hear some shit from patients who had uncomfortable interactions, but I'd say in the last 24 months, something happened. I don't know what it is.
I would say from my observations, something happened that tipped the scales a lot more recent than 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Maybe something around the time of the Bangkok meeting for FUE Europe. Something happened there.
Possibly
around that time frame. What was that, April or something? March or April of this year?
Listen, I think what happened is he sensed a separation. He sensed what was going to happen. And as soon as you pulled the plug, that was it.
Well, I think it actually. I think I know what it comes from, or at least in part. As I scroll through my messages here, where was this? I can pull this up here. Just a moment. I'm going to keep talking to fill the dead air.
Well, I'll fill the gap. So, one of the things that I noticed, one of the late night texts that I received before this all transpired was he had a major concern about his direct competition in Atlanta. And I don't know. I mean, this was late my time when I got this text. Yeah. And basically, he stated clearly that you're promoting, and I'm paraphrasing, you're basically purposely promoting, and you always use the words promoting instead of, accepted someone's the organization, two local competitors of mine, specifically to try to destroy my practice. Now I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing, but I could read it on the air. So once I got that, I was just like, all right, John, have a good night, and everything started to unfold.
Yeah.
So I know people are curious as to what transpired and how things transpired. You just never know with people. Once they get into this mindset, and unfortunately this guy's always been in a, let's just say, a unorthodox mindset.
I found what I was looking for. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about this. It comes down to a fear of loss, and that kind of, it's the kind of like the fight or flight. It's like it comes down to fear and ego, and maybe he doesn't feel like he's getting his due. He absolutely believes that he somehow elevates everything that I've done over the last, 26 years. Well, I actually don't mind sharing this now. I'm gonna do a set. I think it was about 10 days before I had to drop him, which I just proved and validated earlier in the show at the top of the first hour, where one of his inside people just mentioned out of the blue, quote, "We have a huge decrease in patient leads," unquote. That was
I heard about that.
That was September 6th. So, and just so people know, I'm not making this up. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Actually, hang on. I need to. There we go. Get my thing. So it's up there on the screen. Right up here, we've had a huge decrease in patient leads, and then on the 15th, I contacted this guy that works for Dr. Cole, and I said, "Please, I hope you're well. Doc and I have parted ways. Please remove my logo, all videos and video clips you've made, any content with my name, pictures of me, or references to my website," which is the agreement I have with every clinic. That as long as we work together, you can use the stuff. As soon as we don't, then you can't. And they're still using my and your logos and seals on new video productions.
Welcome to the club, man. People have been stealing my IP for years.
Yeah.
And
well, it's obvious that this is a malicious. I can't even say it's malicious. I mean, he's hanging on to it apparently because he's trying to increase his leads, which I hate using that term. I know you do as well. But if we're so bad, Spencer, why is he still using our seals for his videos.
Liar, liar, liar. Here we go, liar, liar, pants on fire.
No, I'm not lying. I am not lying.
You are a bad guy.
I think
a bad man. You are a bad man, serious.
Look, I think the whole thing is just super unfortunate, and I think it's really unfortunate that we even have to discuss this. But I will say it was really good radio on Friday. I'm not going to say that I enjoyed it, but it was challenging to try to deal with a phone call like that and try to maintain, it's not a challenge for me to maintain my professionalism, but to try to keep things rolling where people can kind of be engaged and it's not just people screaming at each other on a radio show.
No, shut the fuck up. I am talking.
Sorry. It was good timing.
But that was a little bit of a challenge. Perfect. It was a little bit of a challenge.
It was.
Looks like your camera set up. Yeah, a little bit of a challenge, but I will say that it kind of hones your chops. So I enjoyed it. When I listened back, I was like, wow, we really handled that with grace. I mean, we could have systematically dismantled this guy. First of all, if he's sober, the guy could barely complete a sentence, in my view, for whatever reason. But it didn't sound like he was sober. To me, look, I'm no expert.
Actually, you are.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Hey.
But something sounded not right. That's all I'm going to say. But, even sober, this guy could barely complete a sentence. And if you've ever seen him write, which you have, if any of your listeners would ever see the stuff that he would put in writing, remember that letter that he wrote to Costarolis, begging him to be part of GHLS?
Yes.
That's when I knew, holy shit, what have I gotten myself into?
Well, I need to pull up that letter.
Look, I don't get embarrassed by anything, but the fact that, this was the first Global Hair Loss Summit, we wanted to really, we really wanted to launch this thing with a bang, which we did. And
we did.
He said he wanted to get some speakers. I'm like, all right, I'll give that that's your gig. You do it.
Well, that was his job as scientific director. That
I know. I ended up having to get the speakers though, whatever the keynotes.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have that letter, that would be an interesting thing to read because this was written supposedly from one professional to another. A professor at the University of Pennsylvania, trying to get him to, be a keynote speaker at a really big event. The first event really to include non-hair transplant surgeons.
Mm-hmm.
It would be hair transplant surgeons, dermatologists, aesthetic plastic surgeons, facial plastic and reconstructive surgeons, bringing all these organizations and disciplines together essentially under one virtual roof. Never been done before. And I'm like, yeah, Costarolis would be great. Why don't you go get him?
Of course.
He made it out to be that it was easy. He could just pick up the phone,
mm-hmm.
make it happen. I'm like, all right, make it happen. If you read that letter, man, I don't know if you have it. It's unbelievable. But anyway, this is what we're talking about, people. This is the reality of what, unfortunately, we've dealt with. And I have to say that, and I said this on the show, there are so few good hair transplant surgeons in this field that, my role has always been to try to give people a fighting chance. And to remove John Cole based on, questionable personality flaws and, differences that I've had with him, the fact that the guy, in my view, based on my experience, from dealing with him for 20 years, a deadbeat. Just because, and I've said that on the air before, I didn't feel comfortable just removing him from what we do because I wanted hair transplant consumers, patients to, at least have a fighting chance. And he was just one other guy where people can have a fighting chance. And unfortunately, he fucked that up now.
Well, I look at it like this. He, I said this before. after that first encounter, or after I first turned him down, I didn't even drop him. I didn't accept him. After I first rejected him, I know he's listening. He hates when I say that, but it's true. I just proved it for the second time. After I rejected him, I had another, and then he was running my name through the mud. He's running your name through the mud. I had another interaction with him behind the scenes that was very ugly. And
Jesus, I've had at least 20.
And then I'm talking between, like, over the course of 2 years, and I had one issue with him, an ongoing issue that we eventually buried the hatchet when we met up. I think in one of the conferences, I think, or maybe it was online. I don't know, or on the phone, but it was leading up to GHLS that I noticed that he was acting different in a good way. And it's ironic that he was saying, and this is when I did that funny look off to my B cam when he was on one of his rants, when he's talking about how when I approached him and said, I want to promote your work, which is such a ludicrous thing, because I have never uttered those words to anyone, because it's so something I would not say. Like, that is, I really want to promote your work. No, I've not said that to anyone. But when he was talking about that, I was thinking to myself, oh, and he said, I think Tillman's turned over a new leaf. He seems to be on the right track. I was thinking to myself, well, that's why I was thinking about you when I was taking you on, when I finally said, okay, let's work together. And it was just, it was very surreal to hear what he was saying on Friday's show. And unfortunately, he buried himself. I didn't even want to do today's show. I felt it was important just to, I did see this as an opportunity, not, unfortunately, at his expense. I still believe that, he's very good with surgery. I've never said otherwise. He's got very good hands. He has a very intricate understanding of the surgery. Obviously, he's very good at that. But he obviously has problems. And the reason why I decided to do today's show is because I think it's important for people to understand that this can and does happen. Now, granted, it's not the first time it's happened in this industry, because there was a few doctors that have made public meltdowns that almost, buried their careers. But it's just important for people to see that we're not bullshitting them when we say it's an ugly industry. And there are huge egos at play here with everyone that we work with on some degree.
Dude, I was asked a few years ago. I was asked to speak at a plastic surgery conference, and it was here in Los Angeles. And I spoke these words. I told this truth.
Yeah,
essentially telling newbies that this is an ugly industry, and also essentially telling the truth about companies who are going to be selling you $150,000 machines or robots, and they are selling you a dream. If you really don't hone your skills, and if you're depending on people coming into your practice and performing the surgery for you, you're going to destroy your reputation.
Yeah,
you may get away with it for a while, but you're going to be effed up. So we've been talking about this stuff. Well, I just lost my train of thought. We've been talking about this stuff though forever. And in as far as the plastic surgery world, I was not invited back to that conference because, and I was told why. It's funny because I was on a panel with Mark Dower, Ziering, that guy Steve Cohn, who's actually friendly with John Cole, some other people. And I was told by somebody that they didn't like the fact that I was speaking ill about their sponsors. So the point is, that I think really highlights just how ugly and fucked up this industry is. I was brought in as a consumer advocate, as someone who has really specific knowledge about this industry, to speak to new guys who want to get into the field. And by allowing, by providing them with the truth, it's always my goal that in the end, that's going to trickle down to the patients.
Yeah. And
no one wanted that.
Nope.
So I think that just highlights the ugliness and the insanity of this space.
Yeah.
It's dog eat dog. No matter what you see going on at these conferences, anything that you see on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, everyone is very, slapping each other's backs. Behind the scenes, they're biting each other. That's it. They're backbiting.
Yeah.
It is dog eat dog. And I will tell you that in my view, in my experience, I've never seen anyone as vicious as John Cole.
No. That is the one thing that I can say about this whole experience is that this won't happen with any other doctor in this industry that I know of because of the unique malice this man has for anyone that disagrees with him. In fact, I want to avoid talking about things that are happening that I can't document because I don't want it to be a conjecture show or a gossip show. But one thing that he has been doing, I can say, is he's been removing people from his WhatsApp group simply because they're disagreeing with him on things. And in fact, after this last show where he called in, once he sobered up a little bit more, he doubled down, and in his group, he said, starting tomorrow, or maybe it was that same night, starting tomorrow, anyone that's with Tillman and Coburn will be out of this group.
Yeah.
Simply for affiliation. Now, if that's not fascist, I don't know what is.
People are like, so the fuck what? You think we want to be with you, crazy motherfucker?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
You think we want you judging our work? Who the fuck are you?
Oh, well.
That's what they're thinking.
Okay, well,
that's what they're saying behind the scenes.
Okay, so context is needed for that because we've not talked about this. He's talking about setting up a list to promote better doctors than whom you and I deal with as one of his steps to, after he openly admitted he wants to kill our business, which was really smart on his part, I have to say. What happened to the transmission?
Yeah, okay. Honestly, guys who are listening, to me, that's all part of the fun. It's all part of the challenge. Look, I'm 58 years old. I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is punching way above his weight class.
No question. No question.
To me, it's like, if he's able to pull something off, this guy's never finished anything he started, then the more the merrier. If he's somehow able to get the word out about doctors who are doing a really good job, great. What the fuck do I care?
No, of course. It's like, okay, well, why don't you just create a list of, why don't you just talk about doctors you think are great and leave it at that? Why does it have to be this malicious intent behind it to put people out of business that up until 3 seconds ago you were actually saying that you love, that you're in bed with? It's like, it's so bizarre and petty and sad, and I really do.
Well, it's all he did to our friends online during that time. There's a guy that he's been friends with for 30 years who only said great things about him for all these years, and this particular doctor was a little concerned about John's position about all the physicians who are part of the IHRS and part of your group.
Oh yeah.
And this doctor, he spoke up and he said, "Well, John, I essentially he said, I guess you're saying that all of my experience and, years in this field and everything I've contributed is meaningless." And he was like, I forgot exactly what transpired. There's another couple of things that happened. And then finally he said, essentially, you're out of here. You're a shitty surgeon, all this stuff. And I'm just like,
oh, no. Oh, I remember exactly what happened. He challenged John on his assertion that all the IHRS doctors are terrible and second rate or third rate or something to that effect. And then this particular doctor stood up and said, I actually take exception to that comment because I've been a member since early on, or words to that effect. And so
just like you, John.
So yeah, just like you. So what you're saying is offensive to me, and and he some sort of clever retort on top of that, and so then John came out and said, well, I'm taking my ball and going home, and by the way, you're not a very good hair transplant surgeon. You're pretty good at hairline lowering procedures and brow lifts. But that's about it. I would never recommend anyone go to you. And then he went on to his Facebook page and said the exact same thing, like it was like copy paste, almost verbatim replication of what he said onto his public Facebook page, where he's defaming this doctor for no reason other than saying, I'm insulted by your insult.
And not only is this doctor have I would say, a better education, is
a trained surgeon, actually.
A natural surgeon with a surgical residency. John's an internist, from my knowledge.
Yes, he is.
He has an incredible business acumen. So this guy has a huge, thriving practice. I mean, it puts John's, whatever John does to shame. The stuff that he's doing in the back of a beauty salon in New York and everything else.
Yeah, I found that out.
Doesn't mean John's a bad surgeon, but the truth is this. John is just super jealous of this guy. So anyway, I guess the whole point of this fucked up conversation that we're doing live is people have to understand that they're dealing with human beings. When they walk into these doctors' offices,
mm-hmm.
you have to really be aware of every step of the process. You sit down and you're having a consultation with a doctor, and the doctor takes a look at your head if you say you're going in for repair work and starts to badmouth his colleagues, or makes claims that he could fix you. We can guarantee results, especially if we use our special super duper biologic that we use. And he makes all kinds of claims as far as transection rates and all this stuff. Get up and walk out.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's it.
I think I'm done talking about John Cole. It makes me
Oh, man.
it makes me a little uneasy. It's like I don't want this to be stories in the background that we have no proof of. Like it's it makes sense to you and I and like all that good stuff. I just don't want to go down that road of making. I mean, it all happened, and it's all interesting, and it's things that people, they're anecdotes that add to the fact that people need to be careful of where they go in general. But look, John Cole has had some sort of, he had a meltdown publicly on our show on Friday. He had a meltdown. He's been having a meltdown for the past 6+ weeks, at least 7 weeks, I think, which started in a private group that's consists of almost 200 people, so you can't really call that private. And on his Facebook page, where his family's gotten involved, where all this is documented. It's like out there right now in the ether for the public to see. His daughter was attacking a repair patient because of our very own On-Call 21, Adrian, one of the sweetest guys on the planet that has had a hell of a journey,
and he looks great now,
was calling John Cole out on his bullshit for attacking us with making up stories. And then John Cole's daughter jumps into the fray and says to Adrian, you should throw your hairline into a garbage. Oh, no, your hairline looks like it was made in a garbage disposal. Or words to that effect. When I saw that, my stomach turned. I felt so bad.
Like you ought to get that mess on your head fixed or something like that.
Yeah, and then some sort of reference like it was from like comparing it to something that's eaten up by a garbage disposal, and then said you should come to my dad or my daddy or my father, whatever descriptive she said, so he can fix you, as if he needed fixing. Adrian has one of the best hairlines in a turnaround that I've ever seen.
I've never seen a repair like that.
Natural.
I have to give it to Eugenics for making that happen for him, because this guy was unfixable.
So when we've been saying, we hope his family steps in to help, it looks like someone needs to step in and help the family. Because we've seen the office manager, who is also his son, with his grossly anti-Semitic comments towards you, and then his father doubled down and included me on that one. the death threats against me, regardless of what he says, it's in black and white.
You called the cops.
I had to call the cops. I had to call the police. They went and talked to him. The daughter jumping in, who I actually had hope that she was the smart one in the family. Apparently not. It's ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly. And
it does look like John, though, I'll tell you that. But you know what? Let's button this up. I think you're right. I think the bottom line is this. This is an unfortunate situation, but I think it really highlights the reality of this bizarre world, this bizarre specialty of cosmetic surgery. You know, for some guys, first of all, there's only a handful of guys that have actual surgical residencies who do this. Now, that means nothing as far as becoming good at this. If you have good hands and you learn how to do it correctly and you really have a passion for it, and you care about what you're doing, and you have access to the right equipment and you have the right staff, you could be a great hair dryer. You could be an emergency medical specialist, whatever. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have a surgical residency.
Yeah.
However, there are some guys, because they never became a real surgeon, quote unquote, they have these delusions of grandeur now that they can call themselves a surgeon, which is interesting. That goes across the entire field of cosmetic surgery.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You could do implants and all kinds of stuff without having a surgical residency. But when you see some of these guys walk around and there are some really humble guys who are really great at what they do. And then there are guys like John Cole who does not understand the word, or has never actually practiced humility in his life.
Yeah.
So, there's deep-seated insecurity. There's all kinds of shit that goes on. I don't know what happened in his past, but I can tell you this. When this all started to happen, especially after Global Hair Loss Summit, I felt a sense of relief. I'm like, I could finally get away from this person.
Yeah. Well, not yet. Apparently.
Now, listen. To me, this is fun. What do I give a shit? He could bash me all he wants. I just filed that shit away. I add that to the file.
Well, at this point, the file's overflowing. At this point, the file's overflowing. It's time to open the binder and start pulling shit out and looking at it. I mean, it's like, yeah. But so
when I say file it away, I mean file it away for future use.
I know.
Here's the beauty about this whole situation. He continues to do what he's doing. So whatever statutes are out there, they just kind of start new every time he pulls some shit. So, if need be, we just take our time, and when the time is right, do what you have to do.
Well,
I just prefer to sit back and watch him hang himself.
Here's the way honestly, I'm looking at this. Anytime that he wants to make the mistake of dragging my name through the mud, of making false claims that he's stupid enough to make when there's documentation to say otherwise, I will be quick on the draw and I will let everyone know, because I'm not going to let him. Look, John has a history. This is unsubstantiated as far as what evidence I've got, but you know it, I know it, everyone knows it. There are discussions in corners. There are discussions on the phone. There are discussions after this incident. Most recently, when he sent me death threats, doctors are always saying, "Yeah, that's John," and they kind of accept it as we don't want anything to do with him. Anything more than we have to, because we don't want to get involved to the point where we can become a target. I'm not playing that game. A lot of what he does is in my opinion, based on my experience with him, is to intimidate silence, is to intimidate into retraction. That's not going to happen with me. Anytime he wants to make any sort of comment that is contrary to the truth, and I've got the documentation, and I've got all the documentation, I'm just going to share it with the world until he learns to shut the fuck up. That's all there is to it. He's continuing to use our Like I'm just speaking for myself, but he's using our seals, our property on new videos he's making, and that's fine. But as long as he does that, this shit's going to keep coming out until he stops that, until he stops lying about us, making shit up. This phone call that he made into the show was the wrong thing to do. He had such an opportunity, Spencer, to come in and just say, "Hey guys, you know what? Maybe it's just a big misunderstanding," or he didn't even have to eat crow. He could have just said, "I said some things, you said some things. Let's just move forward." I would have been cool with that. But
you're communicating like a rational person.
He came out swinging like one of those blow-up dolls in front of a used car shop that's blowing in the wind with the arms.
In all fairness, when I did find out it was him, I didn't know who the hell it was because I couldn't hear him. And when I found out it was him, I did throw out, a little joke about him that I thought he'd be at a
pro-Hamas meeting.
Rally. But,
Yeah, which I thought was very appropriate and funny at the same time. But
right. But listen, you're speaking as a rational person. You can't. It just doesn't equate. It's just the way that it is. You can speak to your blue in the face to this guy, and he's never going to change his mind.
Well, I have no intention of doing that.
He truly believes what he says.
Yeah, no, I know. I have no intention of speaking to him till I'm blue in the face about this. I'm going to just speak to everyone else. But
once his mind switches, once that switch goes off in his mind, like 1 minute with the greatest thing since sliced bread, I mean, he's like...
And that's what's so crazy.
But anyone goes online to read that speech for that Lifetime Achievement Award, it's unbelievable the things that he said. And he told the truth about, FUE and how essentially he would not be doing FUE if it wasn't for me and all that stuff. I was shocked at that speech.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, you're trying to play nice, give me an award, I'll take it. But I knew it was bullshit. I knew there was a reason for it. I knew there was some ulterior motive. And there was. I'm not going to get into it, people, because that is hearsay at this point, but there was. And I was just like, whatever, I'll play nice. And, so we continue to play nice. But I had told you, I said, at some point, the shit's going to hit the fan. When, I'm not sure.
I will agree with that. You did tell me that. You absolutely did tell me that. And
I said, enjoy him. We can work with him to go to Hairloss Summit. We can do all that stuff, but it's not going to end well.
I didn't actually put your comments out to pasture. I didn't dismiss them. I can say that. Sergey in the chat room says Dr. Cole shouldn't have become a doctor. Maybe somebody like a real estate broker or something. He loves to fight, and it's not a good skill for medical practice. That is very well said. It's not a good skill for medical practice.
But he's also a shitty businessman, so I don't think he would do well.
Well, that's anyway, all right.
And again, that's my opinion. All right.
Let's wrap up.
It's kind of like we're just having a conversation.
I know.
And everyone's listening to us.
Oh God. Now my dog is losing her shit now. Anyway, all right. Well, that's a hint for us.
Hampton Hudson, you should call in.
Yeah, Hampton, you should. You said I am a patient. I have a ton of views on this, mixed opinions for sure. Then call. Let me know. Your previous comment. Oh boy, what a weird position for me to be in as a consumer. You've been in this position for 7 weeks.
Yeah. What's the position?
What position?
Surgery. Good luck.
Yeah, you're done. You're done.
What are you worried about? There's
absolutely nothing to be concerned about or confused about. You had your surgery is a good result. You're happy with it.
Turned out well. Thank God.
Yeah.
And that's it. Because if the result wasn't good, you would have had to deal with all this shit.
Yes.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, well said. Think your lucky stars. All right, Spencer, thanks for calling.
Bye,
good hearing from you,
Later.
and we'll talk again soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so I actually got to go. It's 5:37. Thanks everyone for joining. It was a good show. Aside from the first hour, I I didn't want to talk about that. I really didn't. But it was good to hear from Morty. I'm glad he called in. Great to hear from Spencer. And his insights always valuable. I don't know. When you guys want me to come back? When you got questions, let me know. Like I'm super busy this week. Maybe I'll fit in another show. Depends on what happens. It depends on the reaction of this show. We will see. But I appreciate everyone joining us here today for this episode of the main event. And I got a couple of good doctors. I'm excited. They're not off their rockers either. They're good guys. Or they seem to be anyway. So thanks for joining me. And I am out of here.